Before we start the video, if you like this video, give this video a big like and please support the channel by subscribing. Okay, let's go to the video. Okay, so this is episode 3 of our reaction series in The Enduring Mystery of Jack the Ripper by LEMMiNO. So yeah, this is part 3. I'm gonna start recording, and yeah, this part might actually be a little bit longer. Okay, this just started, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward for it. And if you like this video, give this video a like and subscribe. I'm leaving the lights on because I'm scared as hell right now, because I don't know, serial killers just freaked the hell out of me. So yeah, let's go. Hold on. Okay. Okay, as you can see, it is yet again happening. So we're going back to 480p. We love them. To be honest with you, even though this video is 480p, I'm still making this a 1080p in my recording software, so yeah. September 8th.
As the sun was rising on September the 8th, a man named John Richardson was on his way to work. At 4:45, he made a quick stop at 29 Hanbury Street. He went through the entrance and out the back door by way of a cramped hallway.
Oh.
Richardson then sat down on the backyard steps before grabbing a knife to trim a vexing piece of leather from his boot.
Okay.
Once satisfied, he left the building and shut the front door behind him. About an hour later, a third-floor tenant of the same address, John Davis, plodded downstairs and into the hallway. The front door was now wide open, but the one in the back was closed. When Davis went to open it, he found the bloodied remains of a woman lying on her back just below the steps.
That's obviously nighttime, so it's PM.
Inspector Joseph Chandler was the first officer on the scene. After a brief inspection, he sent at once for a medic. Dr. George Phillips arrived at 6:30 and found the woman, quote, terribly mutilated.
Whoa!
The throat had been, quote, dissevered deeply.
Whoa! Okay, so that is just graphic. I don't know. I'm imagining it, and it's graphic. So yeah, it's kind of weird. But the only question that I have, even though it's maybe they're gonna mention it, what time was John Richardson? What was it? David Richardson? I forgot the name that quick. Jeez, why? I'm not good at these, I don't know, this murder mysteries type crap, but hey, we have to know what time the guy with a knife who was trimming, I don't know what, the part of his shoe, I don't know what part of the shoe, I kind of forgot, even though it's just a few seconds ago, but hey, let's go.
Whereas the abdomen had been, quote, entirely laid open.
Oh my god.
The intestines had been, quote, lifted out of the body and placed by the shoulder of the corpse.
Oh my.
The body was then conveyed to the mortuary, while Inspector Chandler and Dr. Phillips conducted a sweep of the backyard. Most of what they found belonged to the tenants of the building, but just below the resting place of the woman's feet, they found a small piece of cloth and 2 combs. The items had likely belonged to the victim, but it seemed to Dr. Phillips that they had been deliberately positioned and arranged by the killer.
Oh.
The post-mortem revealed that 2 brass rings had been forcefully removed from the victim's left hand. These rings were nowhere to be found.
Oh.
Portions of the victim's abdomen had also gone missing, including the womb. Dr. Phillips believed that, quote, The mode in which these portions were extracted showed some anatomical knowledge.
Okay, now we're knowing that the killer has anatomical knowledge. Maybe he's a doctor or a surgeon. I don't know. I don't know much about that, but it's just weird, you know? It's weird as hell because where was that part? Distinct markings of rings, 2 brass. But to be honest with you, my guess, what Jack the Ripper was doing, like, is to maybe he's obviously killing people, but he's maybe taking organs and selling them in the black market. Maybe. I don't know. Did the black market exist back then? Maybe not. I don't know, guys. Comment down below if the black market existed back in the Victorian era. Yes, it's an era, not a period. I searched it up and it said Google says it's an era. So yeah.
Greatly expanded upon at the subsequent inquest. The injuries had been made by someone who had considerable anatomical skill and knowledge. There were no meaningless cuts. For instance, no mere slaughterer of animals could have carried out these operations. It must have been someone accustomed to the post-mortem room.
Post-mortem.
The victim was quickly identified as Annie Chapman. Chapman's date of birth is a bit uncertain, but she was roughly 47 at the time of her death. She had at least 7 children, but was tragically only survived by 2. Her last known address was a common lodging house at 35 Dorset Street. On the night of her death, Chapman had been denied accommodations as she lacked the funds to pay for a bed. She was escorted off the premises by the night watchman, who then saw her vanish into a nearby alleyway. What happened to Chapman over the next few hours, nobody knows. Her whereabouts during this time is a complete mystery.
Because we all know folks at this time is struggling, and that's the reason why last episode I mentioned the 2 guys that seen a dead body. I forgot what the name of the dead body was. What was that again? Mary Ann Nichols, and over here we have Martha Tabron. This is Annie Eliza. But is she, wait, hold on, is she a prostitute?
But unlike the 2 previous cases, a witness in the Chapman case might have caught a glimpse of the killer.
Oh, a witness. Okay, so before we talk about a witness, we already talked about that. People are struggling at this era because of, you know, there's a lot of people and jobs are in demand. And like last part, the two people that found a dead body just in the side of the street just left, but they still reported it because having a job is very crucial in your life at this era. So yeah, and she might actually be a prostitute because women, they struggling sometimes do prostitution because that's the only thing to get money at this era. Okay.
At 5:30 on the morning of September the 8th, a woman named Elizabeth Long spotted a man and a woman conversing outside 29 Hanbury Street.
Possible sighting.
Long was positive that the woman she'd seen was Annie Chapman, but the man had stood with his back towards Long, so she never saw his face. Long did, however, manage to overhear a fragment of their conversation. The man had posed the question, "Will you?" To which the woman responded, "Yes." Now, a lasting point of contention in the Chapman case is the time of death. According to Dr. Phillips, when he arrived at 6:30, Chapman had been dead for, quote, at least 2 hours.
At least 2
That
hours.
would place her death at around 4:30.
4:30.
But according to Long, she saw Chapman alive a full hour later.
Oh.
Then there's the testimony of John Richardson.
Oh, John Richardson.
Richardson was the son of one of the tenants in the building. At 4:45, he made a routine checkup on the door to the basement, which had previously suffered a break-in. When he found it secure, he sat down on the backyard steps to trim a piece of leather from his boot. Even though he sat mere centimeters from the murder site, Richardson did not see a body.
Yeah, like 4:30 before. He sat there in 4:45, right? Around, yeah, that's the time. Okay, that's the time. But when he sat there was no body. But after he just left, there was a body. So he's not the killer, because he went there and just, I don't know what he trimmed with a knife, but after he left, that's where the body was found after he left, like maybe a few hours later. So yeah, he's not the killer.
He was adamant on this point. I could not have failed to notice the deceased if she had been there.
Makes sense.
To muddle the timeline even further, there's the testimony of Albert Kadosh. About 20 minutes past 5, Kadosh had gone through the backyard of 27 Hanbury Street when he heard voices coming from nearby.
Oh.
They were barely audible, however, and Kadosh had only made out the word no. A few minutes later, he heard something falling against the wooden fence dividing the 2 yards. There's no one way to untangle this web of contradictions, but Dr. Phillips did concede the possibility that he'd miscalculated. That, quote, the coldness of the morning and the great loss of blood had skewed his opinion, which was largely based on the warmth of the body. So, presuming that Dr. Phillips did miscalculate and the recollections of Long and Kadosh were off by a few minutes, that would place Chapman's death at around 5:30 in the morning.
It's what you call, he just estimated it. But for Stephanie Long, was it called Stephanie Long? Elizabeth Long, Stephanie Long. Anyway, sometimes folks think that they remember, because what if you just passed someone, like there's one guy, you were like walking and you passed a guy wearing a coat that is cold, the coat and pants, and after like a few hours, and what if he did a crime and you what you call that, told the cops that I saw the guy past me, and maybe he was wearing like a suit, and he's maybe in around shoes like 5'6", like 5'7", 5'6". It's hard to, because it's like you're estimating someone, and besides, will you remember him? Like, will you remember him? Just a random guy you passed like maybe a few hours ago, and someone asks you just after that. And sometimes people maybe guess, and sometimes they only thought that, oh, it was the guy, he was like maybe wearing a suit, and in real life he was wearing a coat, like that. It's hard to do that, because yeah, sometimes witnesses aren't really that good, but if you literally just witnessed someone just killed, that's good, that is good. But witnessing it before the killing, like maybe a few hours the killing, your mind will get mixed up, and yeah,
skewed his opinion, which was largely based on the warmth of the body. So, presuming that Dr. Phillips did miscalculate and the recollections of Long and Kaddish were off by a few minutes, that would place Chapman's death at around 5:30 in the morning.
Heck, Elizabeth Long might have just guessed, oh, that looked like Chapman when he heard about a woman getting murdered in a backyard. Maybe he just guessed like, she kind of looks like the woman that I saw. But what if it was a different woman? What if it is? Because it's like a 50-50 chance, or it's a long shot. But hey.
By this point, the dim light of dawn would have provided the tenants of 29 Hanbury Street an unobstructed view of the murder site, some of whom had even slept with their windows open.
Oh.
In spite of this, the killer managed to evade detection and even made time to arrange the victim's possessions.
Wow.
As the tally of victims gradually mounted, the public grew increasingly anxious. They were not only frightened by the murders, but frustrated with the police and their perceived incompetence. Even across the pond were the efforts of the police fiercely criticized. The London police and detective force is probably the stupidest in the world. What these mocking quotes and illustrations failed to capture were the overwhelming odds stacked in favor of the perpetrator. The police were up against someone who seemingly struck without motive, someone who left no murder weapon and few witnesses. On top of that, the East End was severely overcrowded, while the police were understaffed. As one newspaper put it, "A man in the East End of London is a grain of sand, as invisible and almost as much beyond identification amid the masses." At no point would this become more apparent than during the events of September the 30th.
Chapter for the double event. Okay, so I know, but hey, that's kind of long. It's 17 minutes in my recording, and for me that's long. Like the last video was actually just around 13 minutes. So yeah, this is longer, and the next chapter might actually be, yeah, it's the longest so far, but chapter 5 we might actually add chapter 6 too, because seriously this is too short. And this is 6, this is 7, and this is the suspects. What we're gonna do in suspects, we're gonna try 1, 2, and maybe 3. But if I don't have time, I'll just react to suspect 1 and 2, and next we're going to react to suspect 3, 4, and the outro. And yeah, so thank you for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. And yeah, the victim was a 47-year-old woman named what was that again? Annie Eliza Chapman. So yeah, thank you for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe. Thank you for the people that watch this series, and please subscribe so that you can support me. So yeah, goodbye.